I give the floor to Cardinal Turkson, the representative of the Holy See in this meeting.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Italy, Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Ecuador, and all of you distinguished guests gathered here this morning, we wish to welcome all of you heartily and sincerely to this summit. And welcoming you, all of you warmly, I pray that our seminar will prove as fruitful as it is urgent. Our topic and task, in the words of today's title, is to protect the earth and to dignify humanity. The subtitle would have us grasp climate change and sustainable development by insisting upon their moral dimensions. And so let me focus on 3 points to frame the discussion for today. The first, the title states the problems as imperative. That means the earth needs to be protected and humanity needs to be dignified. The second, the subtitle also names the solutions as course correction, and that means to manage climate change and to promote sustainable development. And the third would be, as the problems are vast and the solutions long-running, the solutions cannot be merely technical, nor are commitments merely contractual. Rather, they must be grounded in morality, oriented by morality, and measured in terms of human flourishing and human well-being. So let's take these 3 points one by one. The first, the problems as imperatives. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, we all are aware of both the marvels of human advance and the huge deficiencies of our world. Deficiencies of ever-growing poverty and inequality, of hunger in the midst of plenty, and beyond all shame, many of our fellow men, women, and children are treated as mere instruments of labor, of profit, or of pleasure, especially through human trafficking and the various and different forms of modern-day slavery. Pope Francis rightly deplores all of this, and he says the throwaway culture, the new forms of slavery, and the globalization of indifference are what plague our society. They are poisonous, he says, and they thwart human purpose and choke human potential and affront human dignity. Focusing then on the natural environment, indifference, abusive treatment, and a throwaway approach also apply to how we treat the natural world, the garden that was given to us as our home. Human beings are part of nature. From conception to the moment of death, the life of every person is integrated with and sustained by the awesome panoply of natural processes. And this calls for a reciprocal response on the part of humanity to nourish and to sustain the earth, the garden that in turn nourishes and sustains us. Today, in our recklessness, we are traversing some of the planet's most fundamental natural boundaries. The very technology that has brought great reward is now poised to bring great ruin. And some of us live close by such ruined physical and social landscapes. Some of us live in the midst of them, and some of us still, and indeed all of us, know about them. The second point will be the solutions, which should be considered as change of course or course correction. So let me now turn to the solutions. We clearly need a fundamental change of course. Various popes in the past, Pope Paul VI, Pope John Paul II, all of them call for ecological conversion, signaling a type of change. Our change in the way we relate to our environment. And it will be a change, of course, to protect the earth and its people, which in turn will allow us to dignify humanity. Everything stems from the essential principle that we made in the image and the likeness of God, and thus possessing an innate dignity that can never be denied, be degraded, or be denigrated. That means that treating every single person as a brother or a sister is the thing to do, with a relationship based on respect, reconciliation, and solidarity. It also means recognizing that everything that God has created is good, precious, and valuable, and that God is giving all of us this planet as a gift to provide for our needs. And the correct response to receiving such a magnificent gift is surely one of gratitude, one of love, and one of respect. According to the book of Genesis, for example, in the Christian and Jewish Bible, God, the Creator, charged us to till the earth and to keep it. And if you want to get into the sense of keeping it, recall the expression that Cain used when asked about his brother. He said, "Am I my brother's keeper?" And what does that mean? To keep is not simply to provide company, but it is also to take and ensure that it remains in life and existence. So every person and every community has a sacred duty to draw prudently, respectfully, and gratefully from the goodness of the earth, and to care for it in a way that assures its continued fruitfulness for generations to come. The gift of the land is a gift for all. And so to till and to keep does not prohibit humanity from making use of the earth's gifts. But at the same time, it is blatantly clear that we have tilled too much and we have kept too little. We must move away from this mode of behavior and instead become more protective and more keeping. In practical terms, we need innovative and sustainable technological and economic solutions, as well as brave and determined political leadership exercised at various levels, including the global one. We need to shift away from an unthinking infatuation with GDP and a single-minded zeal of accumulation. We need to learn to work together towards sustainable development in a framework that links economic prosperity with both social inclusion and protection of our natural world. Thirdly, we must ground everything we do in morality. And so let me turn now to this third function, the moral foundations and guidelines and criteria of everything we do. The ecumenical patriarch Bartholomew clearly and compellingly situates the problematic this way. It follows that to commit a crime against the natural world is a sin. For humans to cause species to become extinct and to destroy the biological diversity of God's creation, for humans to degrade the integrity of Earth by causing changes in its climate, by stripping the Earth of its natural forest, or destroying its wetlands, for humans to injure other persons with disease, for humans to contaminate the earth's waters, its land, and its air, and its life with poisonous substances, all of these are sins. This then is an all-embracing moral imperative to protect and care for both creation, our garden, and our home, and the human person who dwells herein. If the dominant pervasive ethos is selfishness and individualism, sustainable development will not come about. Citizens of wealthier countries must stand shoulder to shoulder with the poor. They have a special obligation to help their brothers and sisters in developing countries to cope with the climate change by mitigating its effect and by assisting its adaptation. The moral obligation extends to all: political leaders, corporate leaders, civil society, and ordinary people too. Corporations and financial investors must learn to put long-term sustainability over short-term profit, and to recognize that the financial bottom line is secondary to and at the service of the common good. And every single person of goodwill is summoned by an inner call to an enfolding charity that radiates outside from the self to others, from those alive today to those not yet born. In this core moral space, the world's religions play a very vital role, as the Secretary General of the United Nations has just reminded us about. These traditions all affirm the inherent dignity of every individual linked to the common good of all humanity. They affirm the need for an economy of inclusion and opportunity where all can flourish and fulfill their God-given purpose. They affirm the beauty, wonder, and inherent goodness of the natural world and appreciate it, that it's a precious gift entrusted to our common care, making it our moral duty to respect rather than ravage, to keep rather than lay waste, to protect rather than plunder, to steward rather than sabotage the garden which is our home. So, Your Excellencies, then, within the Christian tradition, the Beatitudes provide a very radical moral charter for sustainable development. St. Francis of Assisi, who lived his life based on kinship and fraternity with creation, creatures, and the poor, provides an ideal model. And I know that each tradition represented here today can draw from similarly deep roots, teachings, and exemplars. We therefore need to cultivate a new set of values and virtues, including conservation of the environment, compassion for the excluded, courage to take bold decisions, and a commitment to work together in common purpose for the global common good. And here, the world needs good role models. So let religious leaders step up to the plate. Let us lead by example, think of the positive message it will send for people of faith to not only preach sustainability, but actually live it. At a time like this, then, the world is looking to faith leaders for guidance. That's why Pope Francis has chosen to issue an encyclical on protecting the environment at this unique moment in time. And so, by way of concluding, Your Excellencies, I'd like to say that the Church is not an expert on science. It's not an expert in technology, neither is it an expert in economics. Rather, it is an expert in humanity, on the true calling of the human person to act with justice and charity. And it is for this reason that the Church reads the signs of the times and try, with a dialogue between faith and reason, to provide some guidance. And so this September, as we know, and as we've been told, Pope Francis would address the United Nations on the Sustainable Development Goals. 50 years earlier, Blessed Pope Paul VI addressed the same General Assembly. The problems were different, and yet the orientation of the Church is similar. Blessed Paul VI concluded his address with these words: "The edifice you are building rests most of all upon consciences. Today, in an age marked by such great human progress, the real danger comes from man, who has at his disposal ever more powerful instruments that are as well fitted to bring about the ruin as they are to achieve lofty conquest." So in the light of Blessed Paul VI's stirring appeal to the moral conscience of man, let us then, all of us, join in the appeal just addressed by the Secretary General. Let us adopt the primary virtues of stewardship and solidarity. Without stewardship, the earth will be less and less habitable, and without solidarity, greed will wreak ever greater havoc. But with stewardship and solidarity, we are sure to generate greater sustainability and greater security. Your Excellencies, we want to thank you for gathering in this Pontifical Academy to help the Church and all believers, all people of goodwill, to join together in taking up these challenges. We want to thank you all. Thank you for coming, and thank you for your presence.